Welcome back. So we know that when we talk about plastic wastage, we think about mobile phones, don't we, or plastic containers for takeaways and things like that. And those are the things that you see washing up on the shores. But we've been doing this for decades. So think about smarty lids, think about old mobile phones. And now they're getting into even further into our ecosystem.
Yes, conservationists now say they're increasingly concerned about the impact of ageing plastics in our seas, following evidence that it's now entering the human food chain. Our environment correspondent Paul Murphy reports from Flamborough.
The spectacular sight of an East Coast winter tide.
Oh, that's fishing line. Yeah, fishing row.
But it brings with it little reminders of a planet damaged by plastic.
So they actually think that we only roughly find about 15% of the litter out at sea. So
picking up the pieces is an endless task. Collected in recent months, some of this was thrown away more than 50 years ago.
Materials like plastics are extremely durable. They take literally hundreds and hundreds of years to break down. So, for example, they think a plastic bottle that you drink out of, it takes roughly 450 years to break down in the sea. So we always collect whatever we can. It's really a fantastic way to show people what a problem plastics and other materials are in the sea. And everyone always laughs when I say this, but I was born in 1993, and so a lot of this is absolutely older than I am.
The litter is bad enough to look at, but the real problems start when the plastic begins to slowly break down in seawater into tiny particles. Microplastics, as they're known, have been found in supermarket shellfish and in human tissue.
We know that microplastics are in our diet. Our own work has looked in lungs and found microplastics deep inside patients' lungs. Other studies have found microplastics in blood, also the liver and several other organs as well. So we know now that they get into our bodies. And in terms of the impacts of that and whether there are any, we really don't know.
But on the coast at Hornsea, they're trying to find solutions. The town wants to be a plastic-free community. The motto at this shop is refill, not landfill.
Customers can shop with us fully circular, so that they can either bring their own containers, or we have containers for them to borrow. We do repurpose jars as well that people donate to us, so there's no need for landfill at all. Everything goes into the pots and then comes back round again to us for recycling.
A ban on single-use plastics, including cutlery and certain types of polystyrene, comes into force in England this autumn.
More and more people are crying out for plastic-free alternatives, for less single-use products, and we are seeing that change in our behaviour. You know, this needs to be a societal change.
But replacing a material on which there is such reliance has been a slow process, and it could be many years before these tides are plastic-free. Paul Murphy, BBC News, East Yorkshire.
With us on the sofa now, Holly Stainton, who's from Cumbria Wildlife Trust. You know this only too well. You go out regularly looking to see what's out there, and what do you find?
Yeah, that's right. So I work on a project called Dynamic Dunescapes, and we're a national project restoring sand dunes and coastal habitats. So one of the things that we do is run regular beach cleans. So yeah, I've just brought in a few examples of some of the things we can
talk us through some stuff that you've found.
Yeah, so I mean, we do find some odd things. This was something that a volunteer found a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure exactly what it is, some kind of mask or...
Yeah, it looks like an industrial mask of some kind, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then these hard hats as well. So this is about 15 years old. And then the typical thing that we find, lots of plastic bottles, lots of rope, and also lots of sort of string from balloons. So yeah,
Right.
it tends to be single-use plastics that we find.
And that helmet as well.
Yeah, and that helmet.
I mean, it's easy to kind of talk about how ridiculous it is that people throw stuff into the sea, but I think one of the things we're talking about at the moment is now we're seeing the evidence of it entering the human food chain. And plastic just does, and this is 50 years, 50, 40, 50 years on. It doesn't, it just, what will stop it now?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, it's really good that we're getting rid of single-use plastics, so, you know, reducing the amount that you're using, also reusing things where possible, so using things that materials where you're not going to just throw it away after the first use. But then also joining in these beach cleans, because, you know, a lot of this stuff is already in the sea, so the more people coming out to these beach cleans, the better, really.
How long, okay, tell me, if you go to a beach clean, obviously if it's convenient, you know, it's near enough, how long do you spend out there?
Anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, but I mean, it's also really good if you just spend 10 minutes, you know, while you're out walking the dog.
It's not
or
like
something.
organised events type thing. You can just go out, spend as much time as you kind of want to do. And
yeah, you can just go out, or we do run organised events. So with the Wildlife Trust, we have events all over the country, obviously on the coast. And yeah, it's really good to kind of go in a group, because then we can provide all the equipment and then get rid of all of the rubbish that you find.
how do you get rid of it?
So we have usually talked to the council and get it sent to a skip or recycling centres, so we make sure that they go in the right places. We sometimes find sharps and things washed up on the beach too, so we have to be really careful. So obviously going in an organised group will make it nice and safe.
You're doing something very practical to help. Do you ever have moments when you're on the beach and you think, what is the matter with people? Do you ever have one of those moments?
Yeah, sometimes it can be really disappointing seeing, you know, all the litter, and it's such a beautiful environment, but yeah, I think it is quite hopeful as well. I mean, the amount of people that we get coming out to do beach cleans is really nice, and, you know, people are really keen to get involved.
Take a flask of tea?
Yeah, definitely. Hot chocolate or tea. We do a lot of the beach cleans over winter, so yeah, we get pretty bad weather, but the volunteers are fantastic, and bad weather doesn't put them off.
Cumbria, of course, a beautiful coastline, isn't it? So that's the upside. Thank you very much for coming in this morning and showing us the things you found.